Navigation is a skill seemingly lost, given our easy access to cell phones and AI. But having already lived in three different nations before I even finished high school and learning five languages in the process, I understand what it means to navigate cultural differences and nuance. In the Joy Luck Club, I found a book that was familiar, both for its intersecting identities and the pressure to succeed, but also new, as I got to see characters similar to me go forward. In the spirit of the choose your own adventure books of my youth and the metaverse of comic book movies, the Joy Luck Club gave me not just an award winning narrative, but a path where I wondered what I would do in each and every situation that I had never felt before and have not again felt since. In the passage I'm reading to you, young Jingmei has just completed her part in a piano recital, and it did not go well. Balancing her Chinese roots and American surroundings, let's see what luck Jingmei has in Amy Tan's The Joy Luck Club. When I stood up, I discovered my legs were shaking. Maybe I'd just been nervous and the audience, like old Chong, had seen me go through the right motions and had not heard anything wrong at all. I swept my right foot out, went down on my knee, looked up, and smiled. The room was quiet, except for old Chong, who was beaming and shouting, "Bravo, bravo, well done!" But then I saw my mother's face, her stricken face. The audience clapped weakly, and as I walked back to my chair, with my whole face quivering as I tried not to cry, I heard a little boy whisper loudly to his mother, "That was awful." And the mother whispered back, "Well, she certainly tried." And now I realized how many people were in the audience, the whole world, it seemed. I was aware of eyes burning into my back. I felt the shame of my mother and father as they sat stiffly throughout the rest of the show. We could have escaped during intermission, but pride and some strange sense of honor must have anchored my parents to their chairs. And so we watched it all. The 18-year-old boy with the fake mustache, who did a magic show and juggled flaming hoops while riding a unicycle. The breasted girl with white makeup, who sang her Madama Butterfly and got honorable mention. And the 11-year-old boy who won first prize playing a tricky violin song that sounded like a busy bee. After the show, the Who's, the Jongs, and the St. Clairs from the Joy Luck Club came up to my mother and father. "Lots of talented kids," Aunt Helen said vaguely, smiling broadly. "That was something else," said my father, and I wondered if he was referring to me in a humorous way, or whether he even remembered what I had done. Waverly looked at me and shrugged her shoulders. "You aren't a genius like me," she said matter-of-factly. And if I hadn't felt so bad, I would have pulled her braids and punched her stomach. But my mother's expression was what devastated me. A quiet, blank look that said she had lost everything. I felt the same way, and it seemed as if everybody were now coming up, like gawkers at the scene of an accident, to see what parts were actually missing. When we got on the bus to go home, my father was humming the Busy Bee tune, and my mother was silent. I kept thinking she wanted to wait until we got home before shouting at me. But when my father unlocked the door to our apartment, my mother walked in and then went to the back, into the bedroom. No accusations, no blame. And in a way, I felt disappointed. I had been waiting for her to start shouting so I could shout back and cry and blame her for all my misery. I assume my talent show fiasco meant I never had to play the piano again. But 2 days later, after school, my mother came out of the kitchen and saw me watching TV. 4 o'clock, she reminded me, as if it were any other day. I was stunned, as though she were asking me to experience the talent show fiasco again. I wedged myself more tightly in front of the TV. "Turn off TV," she called from the kitchen 5 minutes later. I didn't budge. And then I decided I didn't have to do what my mother said anymore. I wasn't her slave. This wasn't China. I listened to her before, and look what happened. She was the stupid one. She came out of the kitchen and stood in the arched entry of the living room. 4 o'clock, she said once again, louder. I'm not going to play anymore, I said nonchalantly. Why should I? I'm not a genius. She walked over and stood in front of the TV. I saw her chest was heaving up and down in an angry way. No, I said, and I felt stronger, as if my true self had finally emerged. So this was what had been inside me all along. No, I won't, I screamed. She yanked me by the arm, pulled me off the floor, snapped off the TV. She was frighteningly strong, half pulling, half carrying me towards the piano as I kicked the throw rugs under my feet. She lifted me up and onto the hard bench. I was sobbing by now, looking at her bitterly. Her chest was heaving even more, and her mouth was open, smiling crazily as if she were pleased I was crying. You want me to become someone that I'm not, I sobbed. I'll never be the kind of daughter you want me to be. 世界上只有2种女儿 shouted in Chinese. 听话的和随心所欲的，只有1种女儿可以住在这个家里。听话的女儿。Then I wish I wasn't your daughter. I wish you were my mother, I shouted. As I said these things, I got scared. It felt like worms and toads and slimy things crawling out of my chest. But it also felt good. After this awful side of me had surfaced at last. Too late to change this, said my mother shrilly. And I could sense her anger rising to its breaking point. I wanted to see it spill over. And that's when I remembered the babies she had lost in China, the ones we never talked about. Then I wish I'd never been born, I shouted. I wish I were dead like them. It was as if I'd said the magic words. Alakazam. And her face went blank, her mouth closed, her arms went slack. And she backed out of the room, stunned, as if she were blowing away like a small brown leaf. Thin, brittle, lifeless. Thank you.